So far in our chats, we have kind of covered a couple of shifts in the spiritual life. We started with the movement from loneliness to solitude. And then we moved, which is really about reaching out to ourselves, reaching out to our deepest selves. And then we talked about the movement from hostility to hospitality, which is about the movement of reaching out to others. And so now we're transitioning to look at the movement of truly reaching out to God. And the way that Henry Nouwen describes this movement is the movement from illusion to prayer. And so, of course, many of us are familiar with the idea of prayer, but this idea of illusion may be a little more foreign to us. So maybe we can start by chatting about what does this mean, the idea that there are illusions living deep inside of us that can be sort of transformed into prayer.
The way I think about that is we each have a story that we tell about ourselves to ourselves. You know, who I am, it's natural. God made us as storytelling creatures, and it's the way we gather up the experiences and the data of our life. And that sometimes, or too often, those stories can become an illusion. Maintaining that story becomes the driving force in our life. And that the work of prayer is opening our story to God's story, not to utterly demolish it, but to correct it and make it true and more than the story we've told.
I know certainly like on a very basic level, having grown up in a certain era of Disney movies that were all about princesses and princes, there have been a lot of stories that were fed to me at an early age about marriage, about romance, about the role of men and women. And we can be so formed by these outside stories that, like, as I've grown up, I've had to kind of strip away these stories about who I am that I was given by Disney and allow God to replace them with better stories. And so that's just kind of an external example of becoming disillusioned with the illusions and trading them for something more true and more real.
Absolutely. One thing I think I've appreciated, especially about the mystics in our tradition, is this idea that a consistent engagement in contemplative practices, especially prayer, pushes back against the notion that the self, who I think of myself as I am, is the totality of everything and existence. Because what I think the mystics seem to know in this deep way, what was it? It was Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." But I think for the mystic, or for the person, who's just really engaged in prayer, yes, at a certain point, you find in these deep moments, I am. But it's the I am that Moses encountered at the burning bush, and this deeper ground of being beyond self. And that illusion of self, my dreams, my hopes, my fears, the good and the bad, dissolve as I encounter this deeper ground of being, which I would name as God. And in that encounter, if I come back from it, and if I reflect on it, my sense of self is being totally transformed into the way that God sees me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's hard to let go of the illusion because we've told that story of who I am to ourselves for so long. We think if we lay that story down, we'll just disappear along with it.
One of the things Nouwen writes is, we keep giving an eternal value to the things we own, the people we know, the plans we have, and the small successes we, quote, collect. Indeed, it takes only a small disruption to lay our illusion of immortality bare and to reveal how much we have become victimized by our surrounding world, suggesting to us that we are in control. So he packs a lot into that one quotation there, but this illusion that we are in control. Certainly, maybe the experience of having children, or the experience of getting sick or having some really unexpected medical diagnosis can really strip us away of our illusions and make us realize, gee, I'm not in control of the world around me or of my own life as much as I thought I would.
And that's why I think Nouwen talks to us about the movement being from illusion to prayer, is that if we have prayer as a practice to sustain us through those times of disillusionment, that it's a way we create space where we can meet God and begin to hear a new story about who we are and to be rooted into that life that is eternal.
It's a funny thing because I think for many folks who maybe do not have a religious outlook or worldview, they might look at the practice of prayer as something kind of out there or kind of like really disconnected from reality, a kind of pie in the sky sort of thing. Maybe like God is a genie and we're just like rubbing the lamp of the genie or something like that. But the way that Nouwen is describing prayer is it's this thing that really pulls us to the core of reality, to the heart of reality, and helps kind of expose the lies that our culture tells us about what real life is. Real life is how many achievements you have, or how many things you own, or how many friends you have, et cetera, et cetera. Prayer actually anchors us maybe to something deeper.
Absolutely. Nouwen's pushing back against that idea of prayer and meditation as escapism. What Nouwen, and what I would argue any good spiritual director will be the first ones to tell you, is prayer isn't about escape. It's about a deeper experience of the moment.
The movement from illusion to prayer is a great adventure because the God with whom we enter into a new relationship is greater than we are and defies all our calculations and predictions. The movement from illusion to prayer is hard to make since it leads us from false certainties to true uncertainties, from an easy support system to a risky surrender, and from the many safe gods to the God whose love has no limits.
I love the way that Nouwen talks about prayer as a kind of paradox. Prayer is both a gift from God. It's not something we can, sort of make or create or fabricate on our own. It is a gift from God. And yet it is also still something that we work at. And we kind of hold both of those things in tension. So I can imagine a lot of folks watching this video and being like, yeah, but I'm just really bad at prayer. And to that, I want to say, okay, well, prayer is first of all a gift from God. It's a gift from God. So like, you don't have to be like a straight A student in the prayer department. You just need to go to that Christmas tree and unwrap the gift that is being given you. Oftentimes when I was little and the Christmas tree was set up in our living room, I used to like to go and lay underneath the Christmas tree in evenings to see the lights all lit up. And maybe there is something in there about God's invitation to you for a life of prayer, which is to just go and lay under the Christmas tree and accept the gift.